The Quran is also jam-packed full of scientific and historical accuracies that were impossible to have been known 14 centuries ago. From the Big Bang to the expansion of the universe and to every living thing being made from water. From the two seas that meet but don't mix to the accurate description of the human embryo. In fact, there are more than 1,000 scientific verses in the book, and not a single one of them can be disproved by established science.
This is called the argument from impossible scientific foreknowledge, and some people use it to defend the Bible as well. But it's a bad argument. What ends up happening is you just take something that's really obscure in the Quran and say it predicts a modern scientific discovery. It's like people who take the really vague prophecies of the 16th century astrologer Nostradamus and then say, oh, see, this predicted the future, when it's so vague it could have predicted almost anything. And the Quran does the same thing. For example, did the Quran describe the Big Bang and that all living things come from water? Surah 2130 says this, "Do the disbelievers not see that the heavens and the earth were one mass, and we tore them apart? And we made from water every living thing. Will they not believe?" A medieval person speculating that all matter was once together, then separated, is not the same as predicting that the universe expanded from an initial state of extremely high density and temperature. As for the prediction about water, every living thing isn't made out of water because they have other elements besides H2O, like carbon. They contain water, but they're not literally made of water. People have always known that living things depend on water to survive, or that if you grind up living things, moisture will come out of them. So this is not something that only divine inspiration could explain. A human author of the Quran could come up with something like this. As for the two seas that don't mix, many of the images Muslims show of this are not two seas mixing. It's water from things like glacial runoff, which is fresh water meeting with salt water, and salt water has a higher density because of its higher salt content. And so it creates this barrier between them, but there's still a mixing. The verse in the Quran is probably referring to how freshwater rivers meet with saltwater oceans, and they don't mix together to cause either the freshwater river to become completely salty or the ocean to become completely fresh, which is something everyone in medieval Arabia knew anyways. As for embryology, the Quran relies on incredibly vague references, like saying the early embryo exists in 3 veils of darkness, or that it's like a little leech. The word itself could also mean clot, and blood clots usually occur during miscarriages. Even if it doesn't mean that, Roman and Greek historians discovered these embryological facts centuries earlier, so the Quran's extremely vague descriptions are not very compelling. So once again, this is not an example of any kind of knowledge that would have been impossible for a human being at that time, that only God could have given through divine revelation.